welcome along to Tweet Street Scotland Occupied, or Tweet Street Occupied Scotland. I'm Cinnamon Bridges, aka Peter. With me today is my co-host as usual, JB Whitesnake. All right, John, how are you doing?
Not bad. How yourself, Peter?
Not so bad, thanks, John. Not so bad, thanks. We'll have a political special today. We're having a wee chat with our guests, Julie McAnulty and Colette Walker, both of the Independence for Scotland party. And Julie is running for councillor in the Murdiston ward, which is in North Lanarkshire in Scotland. I'll say hi to both of you, and I'll pass it over to John just to go ahead, as we would usually do, John, to find out a wee bit more about both Julie and Colette and what we're promoting today. So over to you, John.
Thanks, Peter. Julie, we'll start with you. How do you think things are going in the independence front at the moment?
That's an interesting question, isn't it? I mean, the baton has been passed back to the Greens and the SNP, so I suppose we're in a sort of wait and see phase to see if they're actually going to run with that baton. In terms of what ISP are doing, we're basically going through a building phase just now. So we're picking up, we did kind of hiatus going through the elections because obviously we stood aside. So now what we're into now is a period of building, of which this is part basically where we're running in by-elections, getting out, breathing the fresh air, speaking to people, just getting the message out there. So that's what we are very focused on at the moment. And I reckon that Alaba will probably be trying to do the same thing as well. So it's all a bit of a pause phase, I would say, probably. I think we've all got to get on with things now and put in the sort of necessary groundwork so that we're actually ready for what's going to come next. I think nobody really knows what's round the corner, but whatever it is, we need to be ready to act when that happens.
Colette, what's your opinion, dear?
Really just reiterating what Julie said, you know, this is a point of waiting to see exactly what the two main parties, the SNP and the Greens, are now going to do to give us what they promised and give us an independent referendum in hopefully 2023. And that's really what they should be focusing on. And we should be really looking for them to be giving us regular updates to what their plans are, what their strategy is, how they're going about leading up to a referendum, what white paper they're going to be putting out, when is that going to be getting put out. You know, give us timelines, give us a time frame, so that we can all work towards that. And again, I think it's all about getting the smaller political parties and the yes groups throughout the country to all start working together and talking to each other and really building the momentum from now here on in. We can't leave it to the very last minute. So yes, as Julie said, it's about getting the groundwork and starting the foundations and building up to the referendum, hopefully in 2023, that we were promised.
Right, I heard that. You're always talking about that independence malarkey up there, aren't you? This is Baroness Harrier Minion. Right, I just wanted to say this is about so you're running for a councillor or something, running to be a councillor or something in the Murdiston, but something up there, up that way that I'm supposed to know. I know that there's a place called the Coke at Heart up your way. Is that under your place that you're running for? No, Blomco, West Crindle, no, West Cambusnethan, something like that. It's up that way.
Cambusnethan is one, which of course is a famous Cambusnethan Priory, and West Crindledyke, who I actually worked with, believe it or not, West Crindledyke's Tenants and Residents Association many years ago, when North Lanarkshire Council were first trying to charge for special uplifts in their area. Managed to get 3 free uplifts, which was the result. But there you go.
Oh, well done, well done. I just wish they would uplift all you as Scottish nationalists and take you away somewhere. Anyway, that's me. I've got another thing to be doing today. So, John, why are you in, son?
Yeah, I'm speaking as an ordinary punter here, but and I feel there's a great deal of impatience from ordinary people who are interested in Scottish independence. 2023 seems an awful long time away, and I think somebody said it better on Twitter, that it's okay for people who are maybe better off than most to wait till 2023 or however long the SNP decide it's going to be. But there's a great deal of people who support Scottish independence, in my opinion, who can't wait to, or don't really think it's fair to be waiting to 2023 or beyond, because they need independence now. Because whoever the SNP drag their feet or decide to do it, Westminster's going to keep legislating against Scotland, and they're going to wake up to find themselves not having the powers that they used to have. As you said, the white paper isn't even done yet, so they really are in the slow lane, and that's given all the advantages to Westminster. Would you disagree with that?
I wouldn't disagree with it, John, but we are where we are. That's the route. We've missed the boat. We missed a boat at this election, and we now have to deal with it. And we've now got to, as I say, what we have to do now is build. We've got to keep holding the SNP and Greens' feet to the fire over this. And this is, what we're doing here today is an absolutely vital part of that. In terms of saying, what are you doing now? What have you done today? What did you do today for Indy? Basically, use that as a catchphrase. What did you do today for Indy? Have you sorted out the referendum question? Are you going to follow up on Martin Keating's case? Martin Keating's couldn't get forward because they reckoned that he didn't have the authority. So you do have the authority as representatives. Are you pursuing the court case, doing the necessary work for that? Are you doing everything you possibly can to push this forward? No, there's no way around this now. We missed our chance. We missed it, and we've got to deal with the cards that we've got at the moment. But part of that is the existence of smaller parties like ourselves, because they know that we're there, and if they drop the baton, it is going to be picked up the next time. That is going to happen.
Colette, what's your opinion?
Julie, hold on a wee second here. This is all damn Scotland's built, the canny Scotland news and the big line news, right? I just wanted to just put in there because I've got another interview that's more important than this, to be perfectly honest. Anyway, I just wanted to say, see, up your way, is there a place called Cleland or something like that?
Yep, there is indeed.
What's the most famous thing about Cleland?
The most famous thing about Cleland? I don't know.
I heard about this, the Cleland Miners' Welfare. Is that still there?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. See, I was a wedding in that in 1996. Terrible affair, absolutely terrible affair. It ended in divorce, no, I mean, that's how it went. But I was just wanting to see if it was still there. I mean, the World Cup was on, no, the Euros was on, I'm sure, and that was down in glorious England, the Euros, that time. And we're coming back round to that again, which do you like the chances that Scotland's got coming down to face the Masters down in England?
I never watch Scotland when they're on the telly, because every time I do it they lose, and when I don't watch they win. So
right, get her watching all the time. Get her watching all the time. Do you hear that? Every time they watch they lose, but every time she doesn't watch they win. Get her, you get watching that. You get watching that. Anyway, John, back to you. I've got another more important interview to be dealing with me. Thanks very much, bud.
Julie, you've actually got a very good point. I tend to do that as well. When I watch Scotland, it makes me cringe. And when I make a point of not watching it, they tend to do better. So
but there's obviously some of us that are cursed that way, so we just need to make sure.
Yeah, I think the last time I watched Scotland live, I think the Leash was still playing for them. That's how long ago it was. I would rather record it or wait till later on, but it could be excruciatingly painful to watch for many years here. But both are on a bit of an upswing now. They couldn't get any worse for a while, but they seem to be doing a bit better. I'd like to ask you a question, and again, this is, and to my mind, it's normalising political interference from down south, that Gordon Brown was having meetings with Prince William and the leader of the Labour Party as well. What's your opinion on that?
It wasn't subtle, was it? I mean, we know these things go on, and I almost felt, I mean, the whole way that was portrayed, I felt that they intended us to see that. Okay, so to me, it smacked a bit of, when Ruth Davidson turned up on the top of a tank, and when she was given what was it, honorary brigadier or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's very definitely sending a message.
I believe that was against the rules to be a politician to be appearing in a military uniform at the time. But again, it doesn't matter if they do it. You know, they suppose. What's your own opinion, Colette?
Well, as you say, it's like one rule for one and another rule for someone else, and it just seems to be that way. And again, you know, the royal family really should be apolitical. They shouldn't have an influence. They shouldn't be given their opinions on what happens publicly. You know, obviously they will have their own personal opinion, but they really shouldn't be involved in the political aspect of whether a country in its own right goes to become independent. And they certainly didn't go about trying to make it that it was a secret. It was out there very, very quickly, and I think it's that way of I don't know, in making people feel that they're more superior because they're in talks with the royal family, you know, and you know they've got the monarchy on their side, and if you're a royalist, then it's not very nice. They you know, let people, the residents of Scotland, have their say without having that kind of influence as well put on them.
I think, as Julie said, I think it was very, very cynical, if I put even stronger words on it, because I think we know a lot more, and more people know a lot more of what happened in 2014. And this time, you know, if we have another referendum, it'll be in a year's time, 2 years' time. This will be the last one in our lifetimes, that's for certain. So I think they'll go to any measure to stop us getting independence, and that includes breaking all the rules. They broke Purdah before in 2014, and that there's no consequence for them for breaking the rules. They set the rules and then they break the rules, and there's no comeback for it. And I think it's a deeply cynical vision of what's to come if we even get another referendum in the next couple of years. There is no ground that they won't break to stop us getting independence, and they'll do whatever they can to do, whatever they have to do to win, and then take some flack for whatever it costs, for what little flack will be, because it won't be for the media, and just go on as they have before.
Now, John, just remember, this is Oliver and Ed here, you know, self-proclaimed Scottish historian. Now, I believe there's a castle in your ward there, Julie, Murdiston Castle, and it has recently housed alcohol-related brain damage care unit. I mean, you can tell how good I am at my history. The fact that I'm reading everything from Wikipedia here. You know this this thing. Is the castle open for tourists?
I don't know if it's open for tourists at the moment.
Oh right, okay. Well, there's no point me carrying on any further then, because I don't want to be going somewhere that's not open for the likes of me. You know. Anyway, John, back to yourself.
That leads on to another bit that occurred to me. I don't know if you've been scrolling through the news channels in the last couple of days. The listing for GB News has appeared on Sky News listings, 4 or 5 channels down. GB News, the channel has appeared, and they've got a scrolling 5-minute advert for it. It starts, I believe, on the 13th of June. So if you can't get your fix from BBC or Sky News of your colonial right-wing dross, this really will put some lead in your pencil, because they've really put the net out, dragging up journalists. The Telegraph and all sorts of right-wing Brexit nut jobs are now going to be presenting a 24-hour news programme, as well as all Brillo Pad Heed as well. So again, and that will all play into when we have another referendum. They'll be Scotland bashing 24/7 along with the BBC and Sky. So there's still so many people in Scotland who are very gullible to start to absorb this garbage and not have the knowledge or the thoughts to counteract what they're saying. So it's another barrier in our way to independence. So, and these people are on it, Dan Wooten and all these ones, they're all notorious right-wingers who've been playing the Brexit flute for years now, and they'll just keep doing the same and belittling Scotland all the way they have to keep us in our place as far as they're concerned. Peter, would you like to say something?
Yes, of course. I've returned, just being myself from this point on. Some things I would like to ask about. I've put on the ISP's video in the background as a background. Julie, I would like to ask you what things are you looking to improve when you're running for councillor in the Murdiston ward? What's your immediate areas of focus?
It's basically, I mean, obviously, what council is really about is people's immediate living environment, I would say. So, I mean, I know councillors talk about it all the time, but bins are really important, you know. The general things like roads and stuff like that. The council's going through a lot of cuts just now. It took a huge dunt over equal pay claims. They're also trying to make up money that they lost to Mears over the Mears housing property contract, which I kicked up a huge fuss about at the time, and I took a lot of grief for it. But at the end of the day, the leader of the council resigned over it. However, that money's still got to be found. That's 25 million over 10 years. So one of my priorities will be making sure that the people that I'm looking after aren't adversely affected by cuts that they bring in. There's been numerous things going on. Some things which have a general effect, like you know, there's been closing of women's aid places as well, and there's just obviously there's going to be a knock-on effect from the pandemic in terms of unemployment. That tsunami is just about to hit. So I would expect that we would be looking at ways of desperately trying to shore up and support small businesses, and also helping people who've lost their jobs find their way back into the employment market. So the council need to be looking at souping up all of those things. We've had a running battle over, for example, citizens' advice bureaus, and they pick up a lot of people who quite often fall through the net in terms of you know, who are up against things like they suddenly find their benefits cut off and things like that, or suddenly find themselves facing eviction. And I think the council needs to be smarter about what they save and what they cut, and those arguments need to be made. For example, if an eviction goes to full term for a council, it costs them £14,000.
Right.
It's a lot of money. But if somewhere, like, you know, if someone can intervene before that and sort something out, it costs them much less. Right. So cutting services like citizens' advice or other advice centres like that is actually a false economy, and I intend to be putting forward arguments like that and making sure that everything that can support people stays open, keeps going. And that people have the best chance that they can. We've all got to band together. This is a grim time just now with the pandemic, very grim indeed. And a lot of people have been badly affected, and mental health is going to be a big thing through this pandemic. This is already getting picked up on as well, and we're going to see effects of that. So all of these things need to be primed and ready, and we need to be clear about where the money goes and what really matters.
Right. What about food banks in your area, or in the area that you're running to be councillor in? Have you noticed an increase in food banks? There's
certainly been an increase in referrals. Yes. Right. So there's a lot of silent poverty going on at the moment, Peter. It's it's just absolutely terrible, and there's a lot of people who I would call the new poor. These are people that have been, you know, they've always been in employment, and all of a sudden they've found themselves unemployed.
Yes.
There's also people who have been affected by COVID who have been sick, and they've suddenly found that they can't go back to their job. So, but we're dealing quite a lot with that, and it can be quite difficult to reach those people because they're not in the system. Right. So trying to reach out and identify where they are. Sometimes it gets picked up at schools through their kids. Sometimes they might pick up the phone to a helpline or something, but everything needs to be sharpened up a bit. It's a hard time
Yeah,
for everyone.
Colette, just to bring you in on, obviously, as the co-founder of ISP and leader of ISP, of events of late, and the one thing in particular that's springing into my mind is Women Won't Wished, and the situation with Marion Miller today, announced that she's going to be charged, and will appear at court on the 20th of July at 10 AM. If you could, first of all, Colette, if you give me your thoughts on that, please, and then open it up to even to yourself as well, John, eventually, once the ladies answer.
It's a very sad time for women right now. We are talking about in 2021. We feel as if we're a couple of 100 years behind now, the way things are going. To be picked up on something like a tweet that she still doesn't really know anything about, and to be criminalised.
I just have to answer the door. 2 seconds,
no worries. There we go. Live entertainment.
For her to be, to be put through this, and for what, and for people to know, women who are maybe trying to get a message, a scientific, factual message out to the public outside of social media, especially Twitter, not so much Facebook, but especially Twitter. They're getting called up for putting some chalk on a wall to try and put a message. To silence women in 2021, this, right now it's disgusting, and to actually have the money that has been used to victimise somebody like Marion, it's just disgusting, when it could be used to help women who are being abused physically, mentally, emotionally. Working on, as you say, we're talking about women who are having to still go out and do anything they can do, legal or illegal, to try and bring up their children, and to keep a roof over their children's heads. It's so demoralising, it's so stressful, it angers me, it upsets me. There's so many emotions there, to think that we're at it in 2021, and we're looking to start doing stuff for regarding women's topics, and one of the things that I think we will be talking about next week when we have a meeting is definitely talking about what is actually happening to women like Marion within the social media bubble, but out with even trying to get a message out into the public. It's a silent protest, and again, that's been silenced, so that's just not on. We have to change that.
I think it's ridiculous. Julie, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, we were all told that this wasn't going to happen, and now it is happening. And this is where the hate crime bill comes into play, in the fact that they left out sex as a protected characteristic. Of all the characteristics, that one was omitted. And I'm not quite sure what the police are doing here, because the police do have discretion. And I mean, the police actually, to give them their due, they did object to the hate crime bill and said it was unworkable at the time. So I'm asking myself, what are the police doing? They're sitting down, that they're entertaining complaints like this, because they do have a choice whether to go ahead with a complaint or just to say that's nonsense, we're not going to pursue that. So I'm just wondering just exactly where this came from, and why it's happening, and why it's gone further. We'll get more information as we go along. But I mean, this is in my neck of the woods. This is happening here. This is in Coatbridge, and it does bring it. It does literally bring it close to home. And I mean, I'm asking myself what's going on with journalists just now, because whatever stripe of journalist you are and whatever position you take, this is not good. No. This is not good at all. There needs to be freedom of expression, and there needs to be ability to have debates about things. And there's no more relevant profession that there is than politics to that.
Yeah.
You have to discuss ideas. You have to have arguments, and people disagree about things.
Perhaps. Oh, sorry, Julie.
Put forward your case. Make your arguments. If your arguments don't stack up, then concede the argument.
Yep.
But simply to shut down the debate is. I'm very, very worried about where all of this is going. And I mean, obviously, one of the other things we're looking at is Craig Murray as well.
Yeah.
And what happened with Mark Hurst. Mark Hurst is maybe a better example, because he had his entire career ruined, and then the whole thing was thrown out.
Yeah.
And it's frightening how easily that can be done to someone. And in the end, it doesn't matter if they were guilty or if they were innocent. The effect that they wanted has been achieved.
Well, I mean, perhaps the allegations of funding from Stonewall to both the organisations that represent where the charges have materialised has something to do with it. John, what's your thoughts on it?
It's all deeply suspicious, and some folk maybe say there's influences coming from God only knows where. That force is in play, and I feel sorry for the poor lady. To reiterate what Julie's saying, I wonder where this is leading us. And you really think that it's a Scottish government that's doing it. This was something I think the Westminster led, not Scottish government led. So it makes you wonder what influences and what direction is pushing us in this way in Scotland. And we should be going in the opposite direction, looking after people's rights, particularly female rights. They shouldn't be second to anybody, and they shouldn't be getting put up in court for speaking about it. It's deeply, deeply worrying what's happening.
Here, I second that. And on another case, but with similar ideals, I mentioned that we would speak about this on the podcast, Colette, the situation where Joanna Cherry had said that she will make a comment when after Mr. Carpt has been sentenced. Now, I was unfortunate enough to have had dealings with Mr. Carpt, having bumped into him per chance at a static independence rally that was held during the pandemic. And he came across as an affable young man at the time. However, he lied to me, to my face, and that has been proven with what happened in the Joanna Cherry situation. Now, I've noticed that there has been no condemnation from anyone within the SNP, and Mr. Carpt is an SNP member. And I'm starting to get bad feelings towards the way that the SNP are representing the electorate now. So Colette, if you can care to comment on it.
The situation with Joanna Cherry was just shocking overall. And it's not been the first time that Joanna has actually been threatened that she's actually had to go into a safe place to keep herself and her family secure because of threats. This one was extremely disturbing, and nobody, and I mean nobody, should actually have to go through what Joanna went through. When you say that he, came across to you, but that's what they do. They're not going to come across that they're nasty or they're vindictive or they're out to harm somebody. That's how they get away with these things. They come across as very plausible, charismatic, charm. People fall for that. And that's what women sometimes fall for as well, if they're in a relationship with them as well. That's all part of the manipulation. It's all part of the emotional part of it as well, that they reel people in. They like people to like them. And it's almost like he would never do that.
Yeah.
That's all part of the manipulation. That's part of the abuse. That's how they get away with it. But what Joanna has went through, nobody does. Nobody ever should go through that. And I would have expected the party to have made a statement to say that this wasn't right. They weren't standing for that. I don't know whether he's still a member or not. I've heard that he's not. I've heard he is. I'm not too sure on that. But what I would say is, you know, I'm waiting to hear what, you know, Joanna says when it gets sentenced, and but I would hope that the party would look at what's been happening and actually address it in a much more formal way, because they wonder why more women don't go into politics.
There's your answer.
There's your answer. Yeah.
Julie, I'm going to have to be pushing it, so I'm going to give you 60 seconds to give us a wee response to that, please.
Yeah, it's, I mean, to any woman looking at Joanna Cherry, it's all depressingly familiar. She's a clever woman. She's articulate. She's someone that a certain type sees as a threat, and she's a lesbian as well, and there's a certain type that sees that as a threat. It's a disgrace, but there can't be one rule for one set of people and one rule for another. Once you start down that road in a party, you're finished. And I think the SNP is beyond redemption in this now. That's my sad conclusion. I fought misogyny for many years in my own branches here, and I finally gave that battle up as well. It's time for something new.
Okay, now I'm going to draw the end of this to a close now, because we're almost at our time limit. I don't want to lose any of this recording because I value everything that's been said. So I'm going to say thanks to everyone from Tweet Street Occupied Scotland, from myself, Cinnamon Bridges, for JB Whitesnake, for Colette Walker, for Julie McAnulty, for the ISP party. Thanks very much, and I'm ending it right now, guys. Okay, thank you very much. I'll send you the recording once it's complete. Okay.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Peter. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
This is Tweet Street, satirical saltire, broadcasting to you from occupied Scotland.